the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Ron.
And we have two guests with us today. Ladies, you want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Stephanie. I'm from Pleasantville, New Jersey, outside of Atlantic City.
All right now. Welcome to the show.
And I'm Nita the Diva, or Nita Brown, however you want to know me. I'm from the DMV area. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. Glad to have you again.
Definitely.
And we have a treat today. We have a very special guest. Ron, would you like to bring our guest in?
I sure would like that very much.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Look, I love her already. She even got the background going.
Look, I had to get the background. I was like, let me be prepared. Let me get this background. Also,
oh my goodness.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. For any of you out there who are not aware, this is Christiana Hooks, and she is producer on some of the best programs we've seen in the past couple of years. This Is Us, on When They See Us, Queen Sugar, which is a show that we have recapped before and love.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pleasure to have you. We are so excited to dig in. I know we have so many questions for you.
I know.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. Go ahead, Tiffany. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you have some diehard This Is Us fans on this panel.
Hello.
I mean,
Everybody looking gorgeous.
Thank
So are you.
definitely.
Thank you.
So it is definitely a pleasure. I'll kick to Tiffany to get us started.
Yeah, I wanted to start off because I had the privilege of seeing Christiana on a panel at the American Black Film Festival with Ebony Freeman and Susan Kelechi Watson for This Is Us. And, you know, you guys did me proud because I was like, this show is universally loved, crosses racial lines, is beloved, and to see you beautiful Black women on this panel, and then you guys play an integral role in, you know, this show. You know, Ebony is the writer, you're the producer, and Susan is awesome and one of my favorite characters. And I just wanted to ask you if you could talk about what it means to you to be a producer and a part of that epic show.
Wow. That's my favorite question to answer because I joined in 2020. So I was only there for the last 2 seasons. So I spent most of my relationship with that show as a viewer and as a fan. I remember watching that show. I was a little bit late. I didn't watch the pilot when it aired. I ended up watching it midway through the season. And I was on an airplane and I was in the middle seat. And I was like, let me see what the show is that everybody's talking about. This Is Us. And so I pressed play, and then, 5 minutes later, if that, I'm sobbing in this middle seat, looking crazy. So, of course, from that point on, I was hooked. And I got a phone call in 2020 out of the blue, to work on it. And the show that I had just been on got canceled. I had just finished that up. I was kind of trying to figure out what I was doing next. And I got this phone call and they said, look, it was the beginning of COVID and everything was changing. The whole industry was upside down. And so they were trying to figure out new ways to produce and they needed an extra hand doing so. So that's how I got that phone call. And of course, they didn't know I was a fan from day one. They just, got the resume and thankfully it lined up. But I got off the phone and I must have been screaming around the house, like, how did this even happen? So it means the world to me. I felt like a Pearson family member, for the first 4 years of watching it, because if you've seen the show, you feel like you're the fourth sibling or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then joining the show, it was just a dream come true. And everyone on that show, behind the camera, in front of the camera, just every crew member, every cast member is exactly the way you would expect them to be. They're just lovely, so talented, just the best group of people.
Wow.
So I loved being a part of that show. And it was just, it was a master class in how to produce television because of the way they go about doing it with the timelines and, you know, jumping back and forth. It's like, if you can produce that show, then you could probably produce anything.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. And so do you talk about the transition, like coming into a show that has already had so many seasons and you're kind of coming in later on? Was it difficult to adjust, or did you kind of just fall right in?
Both, if that's if that makes any sense. But you know, it is difficult to come into, especially a show like that that's such a well-oiled machine. By season 5, even with COVID, they knew what they were doing. And so I was kind of trying to figure out a way to make my mark and get in there and see if there was something I could do to help them. And so it was difficult for a moment also because of COVID. This is how we had to produce, right? It's like everybody was on Zoom. There was no going to set for the first part of the season. I didn't really get the chance to meet people in person. If I saw them in person, they had their mask on and I was like, is that the person I met on Zoom? Trying to figure it out. I remember meeting the showrunner for the first time and I had seen him on Zoom for about 6 months. And when I met him, it took me a moment to respond properly. I was like, oh, that's my boss. My bad. But you know, it wasn't difficult because of the humans that they are and the lovely people, the welcoming people that they are. But it was, you know, it is definitely, there's a learning curve, trying to figure out how to fit into the group of people that already know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. All right, Ron, I'm gonna divert to you.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, and I can ask one. And I also want to say, Tiffany mentioned the beautiful women, which they are. All the women here are beautiful. I just want to let you know that there's a handsome man that's watching this show as much as well. But my question,
we appreciate it.
Thank you. And I can tell you, I consider myself a man's man, but tissue was just all over my eyes and everything. I hate to admit it, but I'm going to admit it. But
You're not alone. Look.
But my question is, and I'm diving in, the story between Toby and Kate is a love story of epic proportion. But sadly, the two grew apart. Now, my question is it more because of Toby to blame or Kate, or did the writers find a way to kind of sew in the problems that they each had, which caused the breakup? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I was extremely upset of the two breaking up. I'm sorry. I was like done. I was done.
I totally understand that. My partner is a big fan of Toby specifically. That's his favorite character on the show. And when that started happening, I knew it was coming, of course, but I was kind of watching him watch the show as it was happening. And he's like, what did you do?
Oh, he blamed you.
Now, okay, to answer your question, all of us kind of went back and forth. And it was like, as the scripts came out, we would be like, are you team Toby on this one or team Kate on this one? And we would go back and forth because I do think the writers did a good job of displaying both of their issues while we wanted this to be the relationship that works. You know, I think out of all of them, of course, Beth and Randall, that's not even a question. R&B, that had to be, right? But outside of that, we really wanted to see Kate and Toby work through it. All couples have their things, right? But you kind of felt like you guys can get through this. But then ultimately to see how happy she was, how happy he ended up being, I felt okay with it. And that they ended up having a better relationship for it. Right. Now look, I wanted them to stay together too, I'm not gonna lie. But but I think Toby, right? Toby.
It's just so seldom that you see a good guy. And that's how I saw Toby. Toby was a great guy. And he went dark. He did go dark. And, you know, my wife and I, we were fighting on the couch. Because she's Team Kate, I'm Team Toby. So
that's funny.
There were even moments we didn't even speak to one another. So I'm gonna tell you, great job, guys. Great job.
Oh Lord.
That's great. That's funny. But you guys worked it out, right?
We worked it out, yes. I've learned over the years it's cheaper to keep her, believe me.
All right, I want to go to Nita. Would you have a question or a comment?
Absolutely, because I wanted to segue from Ron's comment, because in my opinion, as a writer, I feel, well, I'm not a writer, you know, I practice and dibble and dabble, but in watching storylines, I love that we saw different facets of life, a marriage that fell apart, a marriage that stayed together and had the hard stuff. And then we saw Kevin trying to figure out what he was going to do. So I think it just kind of covered the whole spectrum where everything just wasn't everybody, you know, the cookie cutter life or whatever. So my real question was, at first, it was the two timelines. We had the children timeline, then we had the present day. And then I wonder whose idea was to add the future? Because I feel like that came later. I don't remember it being in the first couple of seasons. I remember it felt like it was almost like, I was so shocked because I was like, who are these people?
It was a time jump.
Yeah, so I was wondering, as far as Dan, did he have it all mapped out, or were you guys just playing it out? Because the way it beautifully, you know, wrapped up, it felt like it had to be a master plan. And so I just wonder, was it a master plan, or y'all are just that good with
It was a master plan. Dan is a genius. I mean, the way he had this, it came straight from his heart. This was a story that I found out later was inspired by the passing of his mother's own death. So I think he had the whole thing mapped out. However, there were moments that the writers Absolutely. Contributed to that and then enhanced it, made it better, made it even more genius. But he did know it was always supposed to end after 6 seasons. It was always supposed to, you know, he kind of had the outline of it planned out, and then everyone filled stuff in. And, you know, I wasn't in the writer's room, but I imagine any good writer's room is a flexible room. So if there was something that someone else came up with, they figured out a way to work around that, work it in, you know, and get everything that he wanted to get out, as well as what the writers brought to it. Okay. But Dan is absolute genius.
Absolutely. I love the storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so full circle. It's just, it just touches every little heartstring, and I just love it.
Yes, indeed.
I appreciate that.
And Miss Stephanie, coming your way.
Hey, so first of all, can I apologize for hitting that video off? I apologize.
No worries.
But I want to go back to Ron. I have to go back to Ron. Ron started with the Toby, you know, Kate and Toby, and Kate, Toby's such a great guy, and yeah, he was a great guy, but Kate was a great person too. So I'm saying that to say, as a WW member, Weight Watchers member and coach, when you start a program like that, because that's where they met, in a weight loss program. When you start a program like that and you start with a team member, right? Somebody who's there encouraging you, you're each other's rah-rah person. When you fall off and you see your person who you started with still going strong. There is sometimes some inside jealousy, right? And then you, on the other side, you see that person who's making those changes, right? Start pushing it on you. You know, well, you could do this and you should eat better and you could do this because it worked for me. And so in my personal opinion, I like that, Anita, because I'm speaking for Stephanie's personal opinion. In my personal opinion, I think Toby went through a big change, mind, body, and soul that Kate wasn't ready for. And that is why it caused that water and oil type of thing. Because even when they were having the dinner and the kids were eating, he made a comment about the food that the kids was eating. Like, he felt like Kate wasn't doing her part to be on the healthy part. So he was kind of pushing it in her face. And sometimes people need that whoa moment, especially when it comes from your spouse. Like, you know, I'm struggling with this. Whoa. So I see how they started having that moment. And I think it's because Toby, I see Ronald locking his mouth, but I think it's because Toby changed. And that's what happens. He changed. But now my question to you, how did you get those babies to interact the way they did? Like, these kids were growing up with Kate and all of them. And how did you get, especially the baby with the sight issue? How?
Oh, Jack, baby Jack.
How?
Baby Jack. How? Baby Jack stole the show to me. Like, every time he was on screen, I didn't care what was happening with anybody else. It was like, could Toby who? Because this baby is so good. Give him all the awards. Right?
I wanted more.
The babies. So that was part of my jurisdiction a little bit. Not necessarily Baby Jack, because he was an actual cast member. So our casting department handled a lot of all of the babies. I guess the toddlers on.
Right.
I'm trying to remember what age they dealt with, but I had to do a lot of baby wrangling and picking babies, and we, especially during COVID, we had to have all of these brand new protocols, and we had to have a whole other set. They couldn't even be on set with our actors. So that was, as you're bringing up the babies, I'm recalling some of the headaches that came along with all of that.
I can imagine.
But those kids, their parents deserve the awards. They, especially Baby Jack, his mother is, and it was his mother and his grandfather who were with him all the time, teaching him, running lines with him. And the way that little boy worked was so beautiful. And there was a way that he would remember the lines, and he would sort of have to, because when you're on the set, there's like an order of things that they do, right? So he would have to remember the order. It's like, okay, sound, speed, rolling, and action, right? And so he would have to remember those 3 things, and then it's like, okay, now I'm in.
Oh my goodness.
That's incredible.
So got to a point where he would be on set. He's brilliant, and he would just say it. He's like, I'm ready.
My goodness. And he's a little bitty thing.
He was, he was 4 by the time we finished, or something. He's very young. Yeah, he's very, very young. So those babies, and then the youngest of the big 3, they are such beautiful children. And again, their parents are lovely. We ended up, as a viewer, I'm sure it was quite obvious to you that we had to kind of use new babies all the time, depending on the age.
Yeah, right.
They just kept outgrowing our timeline. But we got really lucky with all of the babies on that show, from newborns in season 5, when the new big 3 were born, to all the way to the end. So yeah.
Wow.
Babies every other week, having to cast new babies for the show.
Incredible.
Wow. And I had another question for you too, because like I mentioned before, you work on a lot of tear jerkers and a lot of things that really get you into your feelings. And so I guess I was wondering if it comes off behind the scenes the same way as what the viewers see. Because as we're watching it, it's like everything all at once, but behind the scenes, and we were very passionate about some of these topics too. I wonder if behind the scenes you guys experience that as well, like even as you're watching, does it come together in that same manner?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And again, I don't know if this is something that happened because I was a viewer first on This Is Us. But sometimes these scripts would just get me. I would just be at home reading the scripts and start crying. Again, actually, it happened to me on an airplane. I was going somewhere on a weekend trip. I was trying to catch up on my scripts, and it was episode 11 of this season, which was the Thanksgiving episode where Rebecca makes that big speech about live your life. Don't live the rest of your life for me. I got to that. I got to that speech. And thankfully I wasn't in a middle seat this time, but I did cry like the crazy person on the plane. And I had to just close the script. And I was like, okay, that is going to be a powerful moment because I'm on this plane in tears. I didn't even finish the speech. I just got to like halfway through and I was already a mess. So the easy answer is yes, it definitely gets us. The train episode was another one. We all got the script, of course, the penultimate episode, right? So everyone was in anticipation for that script. And we all got it at the same time and we were in our offices and our offices are just in a line. And so we all closed our doors at the same time, read the episode, and you could see hear the doors start opening one by one and everyone popped out. Just sobbing. And it was like, okay, yeah. So it hits us all. And other projects that I've been on, definitely When They See Us was another one that I
had to pause.
That was tough. That was tough. That was very tough.
It was well done, but it was tough.
Yes.
To this day, right?
Yes.
Right. And then the pilots of Queen Sugar. And on Queen Sugar, on the pilot especially, that was one that I can say that I've seen at least 50 to 70 times because of the fact that it was a pilot and we were just going back and all the cuts and all of the mix and just everything. Then we ended up doing 2 versions of that and I had to watch it twice. I saw it a lot, but all 70 times. The scene where Ralph Angel and Blue go visit the father, Glenn Turman, in the hospital.
Yes.
Michelle and Degiacello singing. I'm like, okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I gotta say, we definitely appreciate the work that you guys put out. It's definitely a lot of work that I feel like it's important to tell that story. And so regardless of how, it comes off, maybe have me crying and boo-hooing, but, it's still very important to tell. And I was just thinking, if it hits us like this, and I know the creators have to be like,
yes,
in pieces.
It's funny you mentioned that train episode because that episode got me, and the episode that got me, that surprised me, Miguel's episode. Now I'm a big Jack fan, so I like Rebecca with Jack, and I like Miguel, but I was surprisingly moved by his episode, and I was like, wow, this episode really touched me about Miguel.
Wow,
that was the goal. I mean, people don't really know Miguel; they know him as Jack's friend that stole Rebecca, So we got a lot, once people knew, even when the preview of that aired, the next week on aired, Twitter was like, we don't care. We are not Team Miguel. We don't need his story. And then they were hot.
Story was incredible.
Yeah, I read some of that.
Right. And then when it aired, people were like, okay, yeah, we needed it. we had to humanize him, you know, and then you don't, you know, it's like to tell a story, which we've been doing all 6 seasons, right? About a family member who is dying, disintegrating, needs so much care, and what that takes from the spouse of that person. The amount of work, inner work, outer work. I mean, it just is so exhausting and draining emotionally, physically, that people don't think about until they're in that position. And just for the viewers, as passionate as we all are, I call myself one still, right? As passionate as we all are about Jack and Rebecca together, or just Rebecca in general, it was good for everyone to see how much he cared about her and that it was real. Yeah. So
can I ask a question? How come he didn't get more time on the train?
Because he wasn't the one. Jack was the one. Jack was
Miguel
the one.
needed just a little bit more. There was so much love with Rebecca.
Listen, he
that's why he got his episode.
He served his purpose. We love Miguel, but Jack was the one.
Yeah, no, and you know what? And Tiffany and I, we have this counterpoint on our show, but right here and now, I have to say, and Tiffany, you can record this and keep it in your banks. You and I are in perfect agreement with that, with Miguel and Jack. So we're good. We're good. But what I want to ask is with Randall. Randall's storyline is an incredible journey from being left on the doorstep of the fireplace to finding his biological father years later. And it was personally, it touched me, that whole storyline, because I was, you know, at my dad's bedside in the hospital when he passed. And, you know, I had that final touch with him. So even though that's a different storyline from Randall, but you had bits and pieces of that. But my question is, how were you able, the writers and you, able to put so much love and heartbreak in one box?
Yeah.
Sterling K. Brown. I mean, I know it's, of course, it starts before he hits the screen, but he is such a gem. He's so incredible.
Yes.
What he brings to it is on another level. You know, it's, you can have words on a page all day long and they can be beautiful, you know, but what's the heart that Sterling brings to it, to Randall, is, I've never seen anything like it on television, I have to say. And I don't know that we ever will. I think this is a special performance that people will constantly be trying to top, not necessarily top, but meet. And you can't. You can't.
You can't even meet it. Don't even touch it. Let it alone, because any attempt to reach that goal is going to be failure. I mean, this man, I have so much respect for him. And, you know, that role that he played, I'm gonna tell you, you guys did, I got goosebumps. I was a mess. Okay. I just want to I was a complete mess. And, you know, even just back real quick between Miguel and Jack, round 2 with me and my wife. Of course, she won 4th round. But, you know, because she kept telling me, watch Miguel's story, watch Miguel's story. And I was like, I don't care about his story, you know. But after watching it, I do agree that you had to have some heartfelt for Miguel, because he was a showman. He did what he had to do.
And
so, you know.
He loved her.
He did.
And it was devastating because he went before her.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, wow, he didn't even make it to see her. You know, that was terrible. And when she was calling out for him after he passed, that was heartbreaking.
You know what touched me? When he fell and he still insisted on taking care of her. I was like, oh my, he didn't care nothing about his pain or what he was going through. It was all about his wife. How sweet. Oh,
I love you, Stephanie. That's a good break.
And I think that's what so many people appreciate about the show, is not only is it touching and heartfelt, but a lot of people can relate in some way with somebody. So I mean, all around, it's just a excellent production, excellent show, all all the actors, the cast and crew. So just my hats off to you guys.
Thank you.
I have to ask you this. I have to put you on the spot about this because if those of y'all that don't know, Christiana's father is the legendary actor and director Kevin Hooks. Grandfather Robert Hooks. My father was really excited about that when I told him that we were back for the show. Oh, he's a fan of your father and your grandfather. He was like, Kevin is bad, but Robert was really bad. So that's what my father said. And he was excited that we were going to talk to you today. And you coaxed him out of retirement to direct some of the episodes of This Is Us. And I just wanted to know, like, how was that working with him on the show?
The best experience of my entire career. So the backstory is that I'll start by saying This Is Us is a family on screen, and it's just as much of a family behind the camera. We have parents and children working together. We have siblings working together. Our craft service is an entire family. We have directors whose kids are in post-production, producers who, it is really, truly one big family. That was important to Dan, just because he felt like, this is what the show is. So how can we not be this behind the camera as well, right? So it really was just one big family reunion every day, every episode, So I actually met them when I came to my father's retirement party, because he did 4 episodes before I got there, or 5, I can't remember. He did several episodes before I got there. He was already a part of the This Is Us family. And he retired in season 4 on that show. And he said, they threw him a big champagne toast party, and, whole crew, whole cast came out, everyone said goodbye to him. So the first time they ever met me, I was sobbing uncontrollably, ugly cry in front of the whole cast and crew of This Is Us, which is fitting, right? That's how I've always,
very much so.
I'm always sobbing uncontrollably because of them. So that worked. Anyway, so he retired and he said, I'm done, but if ever my phone rings and it's one of you, I will come back and do the show. Wow. That was before I joined the family. So I was like, this man is bluffing. So when I joined, they kept asking him. They said, ask your father, ask your father. He said no the whole first season that I was there. And I think it was more COVID related than anything. He was afraid to be back on a movie set. But season 6, there was a very special episode that was written by Susan Kelechi Watson and Ebony Freeman, who joined me in Miami a couple months ago. And when that script came to my desk, I saw so much of my relationship with my father in it, because it was about Beth and her relationship with her father, and how that relationship truly formed who she was as an adult. And it mirrored my relationship with my own father. And I was like, this has to be the one. If he's gonna do it, this has to be the one. And Susan loves him and trusts him, and it was a Beth story. And so he said he would do it. He came back out, did that episode, and it was a dream. I mean, he's so smart. I can say it because he's my father, but I would say it no matter who this man was. He's so good at his job. He's been doing it for 50 plus years as an actor first, then a director, producer. He's done everything. So the wealth of knowledge that this man has, and that he was so willing to give all of us, not just me because I was his daughter, but anyone who wanted it. It felt like this was his new path. He's retired now, so he wants to be a teacher, and he wants to just give everything he's ever learned to the next generation. It was great. I could talk about that forever. So
oh, that was
anytime.
amazing. And that episode was amazing. You're talking about the Island Girl episode, right? Yeah, that was a beautiful episode.
Yeah. And you know, I look on your Instagram page. I'm a follower of yours. And I see that you post so many like nostalgic pictures, and it's like you've been in this world pretty much your whole life. So is that kind of something that you knew you wanted to do? Like it's like a passion that you had to be involved in television and film?
Definitely. So my dad ended up going to work with my grandfather when he was very young and started his own career when he was 9. And so by the time I was, you know, able to walk, I was on a movie set with him. And I'll never forget, I must have been around 5 to 7. And he was doing a show called Alien Nation, which long time ago. But it was so fascinating to me that I remember waking up every single morning. It was like he would wake up at 3 a.m. to be on set at some crazy hour. And he would come in to say goodnight well, good night and goodbye. But he would come in to say goodbye for the day. And I would just pop up and I would say, I have to go. And he's like, you don't want to go to work with me? I'm like, yes, I do. And he would take me and I would sit there in the makeup chair and just watch everybody doing what they do and sit there with my feet dangling on the director's chair just as he would work. And I was fascinated by the whole thing, not the glitz and the glam of it, but the grind, the work. And I was like, what are the grips doing? What is that tape for? What is it? And everybody, and I would sit there the whole day. Wow. And people would be like, is this child bored? Does she need anything? Are you sure she wants to be here? I was in heaven. And then even in the edit room, I would just sit with him in the dark, just watching the cut, which is, if you've been in one, you know, it's like watching paint dry. You're watching the same thing over and over. And I was fascinated. So I always knew this was something I wanted to do. I just didn't know exactly what area I wanted to be in. And I think that's why producing works so well for me, because you're in it all.
Yep.
You have to oversee everything. So yeah, since day one, I've wanted to be here.
You were baptized.
Right. I had no choice.
Well, you know, This Is Us has unfortunately come to an end. I think everybody was sad to see it go.
Yes.
I mean, that might have been the most tragic thing of the show.
I know.
Right.
I agree.
True.
Can you give us any insight on what you're working on next?
Funny you use that word.
I was gonna ask the same thing, T.
Insight. Funny you use that word. No, I just finished a pilot that it technically was called the Untitled Kate Oyegan pilot, but we were internally calling it Insight. So it's funny that you said that. So Kay Oyegan is a phenomenal writer who I met her on Queen Sugar. And then she went to This Is Us and we worked together on both shows, obviously. She wrote this pilot and I pulled my father out of retirement again to direct that. I won't let this man rest. So we finished that actually just before ABFF. We wrapped that and we just got word that it is not being picked up. So on to another one, which is also in the This Is Us family, because once that show wrapped, pretty much everyone got a deal for a pilot or a series or a movie, or everybody's working. So I'm going to join. We've got Ken Olin is going to direct. Ken Olin, who was another one of our producers, is going to direct Justin Hartley's project. So I'm going to go do that.
Oh, that's Kevin.
That's Kevin, right? Exactly. So that's what I'll be doing, and some exciting things sort of in talks, but nothing is really solidified. So I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Can I just say I love the way you guys did Randall's script. to show that it's okay for Black men and Black people in general
Mhm.
who need
Mhm.
therapy, you know,
Yes.
to be able to say, I need help and I need someone to talk to. I
Yep.
love that about that whole thing, because we tend to shy away from that, or we feel like we're, you know, we don't need therapy. We don't, but in actuality, we do. And to show that, that was incredible. But I have to ask you a question. Why didn't Randall kind of snap when he heard that phone call while that baby was driving that car, and and the boyfriend said, I love last night, or what?
He was always composed though.
Yeah, he was.
And for the most part,
For that. He was too cool.
Because he was in therapy.
Yeah.
That was a moment where I was like, oh, it wouldn't have been the same in the car with my father. But
no, mine either.
No way.
When she tore up the car, remember when she took the bat and tore up his car? And what was that, the end of season 2 or whatever? I was like, oh, Randall didn't, like, she's still alive. When I said she's still in season 3.
Randall was
like,
so cool, just so Randall-like.
Yeah, he was. I loved. He was one of my favorite characters. He and Beth.
Yes. Oh, I love them together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to say, when I grow up, I want to be Randall.
Yeah.
I think I've reached that point, but I mean, growing up at it, but you know, but no, Randall's my man. Much love for him, much love for the show, much love for you. And I just love the fact that you're using our background, you know, I'm just touched.
Yes, indeed. And Tiffany, did you have something to add before I go?
I just was gonna ask Christiana, like, you come from this legacy with, you know, your dad and your grandfather, and I was like, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Or do you feel like it's a lot of pressure? Or
I don't actually. I feel more like it's a gift. I feel it because we don't get that story too often, right? This is usually not a story that Black people get to say, that we have a legacy in Hollywood.
Yes.
And I find it to be such a tremendous gift, and I cherish it more than probably anything in my entire life. And I just want to make them proud. And I think that I think that, you know, okay, here's actually the perfect story to tell you. I was on set for the K.O. Yigan project after This Is Us wrapped, but it was still airing. And we shot in Chicago. So we were 2 hours ahead. And it was early morning in Chicago. So I was like, what? Okay, my phone rings and it's my grandfather. And he usually reserves his phone calls to, like, if something's going on, or he's like, I don't want to bother you. I know you're busy. So it's usually something serious if he calls me. And so, of course, it's early in the morning. I answered the phone and I'm worried, and even more worried because he's sobbing. And I'm like, what's going on? Are you okay? And he's like, no. And he said, I just finished watching the train episode of This Is Us. I am not okay.
He was watching.
Hallelujah.
Oh, that is so special.
Yeah. And so he, you know, just getting phone calls like that from him, and both of them are always telling me how proud they are, always supportive. And I could be doing nothing, you know, I could be, I don't know, I could have any job and I know they would be proud of me. But to know that I'm using the gift that they've given me is everything. So no pressure. I think they're happy with what's going on. But yeah, I love it.
Blessing.
Well, we're proud of you. And I can say, I mean, just seeing a very talented, beautiful Black woman in your role, and I know how tough the industry can be sometimes, and it's very treacherous, I hear, some people say, but it's a beautiful thing to see someone like yourself representing it. It makes us proud too.
It does. And you're so grounded too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you. I try. I mean, listen, I've always said that because of that gift, I need to make sure I work harder than anyone else on the set.
Absolutely.
Because walking in, people are already thinking, oh, this was just handed to her. She's not really, she didn't really earn it, which I don't believe. I believe I've earned it over and over again myself. But I do always think you have to work a lot harder because of what people expect.
Yep.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the projects you choose, they always have something so meaningful behind them. So I appreciate that as well.
And can I say one thing? I just have one thing. I just want to encourage you to continue to tell stories of diversity, inclusion, and just tell them softly. Like, I mean, it seems like sometimes in Hollywood, sometimes bigger is better, but the gentler moments for me just really works well with me. I mean, I'm just one person. Who am I? But I just, I love that I saw everyone represented from disabled, from struggling with weight issues, struggling with mental health issues, LGBTQ issue, everything.
Yeah.
I just love it, and it just really touched me. And so I hope you continue to, do that.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. That is the goal. That is, as people ask me what I want to do next, it is exactly what you just said. So that is, if I'm doing my job right, we'll be back here talking about something else the same exact way.
You are always welcome.
Always.
Thank you.
Almost. And trust me, keep that backdrop. I'm almost sure we'll be seeing you.
Right. We'll be calling you again.
Yeah, definitely.
It's loaded and ready to go.
And we will absolutely continue to follow you and support your future projects.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you so much for being so generous with your time today and joining us. It's always a treat.
This was such a fun time. This was, you guys, Tiffany and I have been chatting back and forth, but
and I'm gonna keep chatting with you too, because I want to stay up on your projects.
Absolutely. It was a joy to meet all of you.
Same from us.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Can't say it enough.
And I'm on Instagram right now following you.
Follow her.
I'll follow back.
Do you still have your fashion and lifestyle blog?
I don't. I actually got way too busy to do it. What's funny is that it ended up morphing over the this is a slight derailment, but over the pandemic, it turned into something different because I've always been obsessed with manicures, always. And when the salons shut down, I was like, oh no, what do I do? So I actually ended up starting something called the Mani Club, which is kind of like book club for people who love manicures, and everyone has their own home kits and everything, and we all jump on Zoom and paint together, learn stuff about how to paint, and
that is an excellent idea.
I wish I had known you then. Because I had my own little home kit that had I told you, Stephanie is into the nails.
I still do it. I still do it.
Let's do gel myself and give myself a pedicure. I was really thugging it out during the quarantine. So I wish I had known you then. I would have been on Zoom with you.
I love it. And it is a place, it was sort of just this thing that I started and it grew. And so instead of doing the blog that sort of wasn't growing, it was like 6 people were looking at that blog. Now I have almost 13,000 followers, which is, I know, not a ton, but it's just, it's like a little cute community of people who are obsessed with manicures. So we still meet. So come
I'm gonna follow you.
I'll let my wife know. Maybe I'll be back in good grace. So
That is funny.
Yes.
I love it.
Well, thank you again. It's a pleasure. Like Tiff said, you're welcome to come back whenever you like.
I will be back for sure.
Again, grateful for you joining us today.
Thank you. And
you.
look, give our regards to your father and your grandfather.
Oh, please.
too,
I sure will.
because we do recognize that you're a legend in your own right, but they are too. They, you know, so
Thank you. I
please
sure
send
will.
our regards.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank
Come
you.
back.
When you follow me back, check out my color street. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I love it.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You to put on a show. Now I found a home. I'm filling my soul up with devotion and stardust. I'm bold, got it all in control. Now I know what I want, like a natural woman. You know I'm not